All right. Geometry 6-6, practice number 2, problem number 3. This is a kite. I know this is a kite because I have this is congruent to this. It's one pair of sides congruent, and then I have another pair of sides congruent. So I know this is a kite. We learned about a kite in the notes. If you don't believe me, feel free to look back. That one pair of angles is congruent, and it's the pair that's here between those two non-congruent sides on either side of this quadrilateral. So this is congruent to this. In a kite, the angles add up to 360 degrees. And you go, Mr. Arnold, I don't remember that. Well, you should remember that because this is something that we learned many times in this unit. We've said it 100 times probably easily. In the very first part of the unit, we learned something else. We learned that the sum of the angles, that's all of the angles added up. That's what sum means. The sum of the interior angles of a polygon equals the number of sides minus 2 times 180. This is something we learned. So even if you go, I don't remember that 360 thing, well, you should know this because this is going to be on the test, right? The number of sides minus 2. And so this little n right here is talking about the number of sides. Okay, so the n is the number of sides. So however many sides you have, if you want to know the sum of the angles, all the angles added up, you do the number of sides minus 2 times 180. So I'm going to take the number of sides, in this case 4, because it's a quadrilateral. I'm going to take 4 minus 2 times 180. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 times 180 is 360. So this is the sum of the angles of this kite. Okay? So I know that all 4 of these angles added together. So there's 2 ways that we can now figure out our missing one. There's an algebra method, and there's a common sense method. Okay? Now, common sense tells you that if you know that 4 things added up equal something, you can use this amazing little math principle called subtracting to figure out what you're missing, right? Subtraction is the opposite of adding something in. So if you know the answer of an addition, that's the word sum, answer of an addition. If you know the answer of an addition problem, you can subtract to figure out what you're missing. So I could just say, well, let's see here. I've got these 2 angles that I know, the 110 and the 48. And I go, well, let's just add those together. 110 and 48, it makes 158. And I know that the sum is 360, so I could do 360, and I could do that. I could subtract that 158 out of it. Okay, so let's do that. Let's subtract that 158 out of it. I'm going to use my calculator just so I don't mess up, because that's embarrassing when you mess up on a recorded video. So I'm going to do 360 minus 158. It equals 202. 202. Now, I know that that's what these 2 angles are together. So I know that both of them together, not individually, both of them together is 202 degrees. Because I know that all 4 of these have to add up to 360, and I just subtracted these out of it, leaving me with 202 degrees for these 2 angles. But they're the same. So if something is split evenly between 2 things, there's an amazing little math word for this. It's called divide. So if something is split into 2, you can divide it by 2. If it's split evenly, dividing it into 2 will tell you what each one is. So I'm just going to do this 202 divided by 2. This one I'll do in my head. 202 divided by 2 is 101. So I know that each one of these angles is 101. I did that by subtracting and dividing. 2 basic math principles that you should have learned a long time ago, and just put them into practice, thinking about the common sense element of this. But now if you go, Mr. Harmless, I don't have any common sense, so I can't do that. Then let's try doing some algebra. And if you go, I can't do algebra either, well then, I'll see you again next year. Okay, so algebra. The algebra method is this. It's the same idea, except, let's go back in time, pretend like I don't know these. What were those? Well, I don't know. But there's another method. We could go, let's just solve these using algebra. I can make both of these an x because they're both unknown and they're the same. So I wouldn't use an x and a y because they're not different. They're the same. X represents a number I don't know. And since I use the same variable, x, that means it's the same number. I don't know what it is, but I know it's the same. That's why I can use an x in both places. Now, I'm going to take all 4 of these angles and add them together. X plus 48 plus x plus 1 110. And I know that when I add these up, the sum is 360. I know that because of this little formula right here that I worked out earlier. So now I have an algebra equation that I can solve because there's only one unknown that's in here. I'm going to start by combining my terms together, right? I'm not working this out using the algebra yet. I'm just putting some terms together. I have an x here and an x here, which means I have two of those. I have a 48 and a 110. If I put those together, I get 158. Together, this stuff still equals 360. I'm now going to get rid of this 158. And if I do 360 minus 158, I end up with 202. On this side, the 158 minus 158 is gone, so all I'm left with on the left side is this 2x. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to get rid of that 2 right here, because I just want to see what that x is. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Over here, the 2's cancel, leaving me with just x. On the right side, 202 divided by 2 is 101. So now I know that my x is 101, which is what the question is asking for. What is that missing angle Q? I now know it is 101. If you have any questions, let Mr. Harmless know. I am a professional math explainer, and I'd be more than happy to help you.